to our big business world NewsX panels on the Indian economy. As always, we of course are decoding the current state of the Indian economy, the road to recovery in this post-COVID world with some key guests and opinion makers. Let's introduce them for you. Top of the show today, we have Raghunandan Saraf joining us live, founder and CEO of Saraf Furniture. Jeronimo Almeida, leadership coach and consultant, also an inspirational orator and founder of IconGo. He's also a Rex Karmavir Global Fellowship and Kalamir Awardee. We also have Dr. Ajay Kaul joining us live. He's chairman and HOD of the Cardiology Department of the BLK Super Speciality Hospital in Delhi. Joining us also at this point is Dr. Subramania Kusnur. He's founder, chairman, and CEO of Aquacraft Group. Rana Basu Thakur, Chief Mentor, Just Lateral Thinking Solutions Private Limited, is also joining us on the broadcast. And Anshu Anand, who works with a business advisory firm for growth hacking, is also joining us on the broadcast today. Also with us is Dr. Anurag Batra, as always, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of Business World and Exchange Media Group. Welcome all of you, and thank you so much for joining us on this special panel today. Let me go across to Mr. Saraf first. Mr. Saraf, your reading of the Indian economy currently, what really are of course the biggest threats that your sector is facing and the Indian economy is facing, and how really do you see this road for recovery proceeding from here?
You will have to unmute yourself, Mr. Saraf. We cannot hear you. Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Maybe the second most used word of 2020 after COVID. I think we're trying to unmute the Indian economy here. We're talking on a day when we got to know that the Indian economy has shrunk by 24% in the last quarter.
24% last quarter, yes.
Yes, and GDP. And, my fear is in the next quarter, it may be even more. So tell us, where do you see the demand headed? And as Uday asked you, where do you see the business and economy going?
Okay, as far as our sector is concerned, economy as a whole, I think the stimulus which was introduced by Prime Minister Modi ji, one of the most important thing which was not so presented as economic stimulus, but something which was very important was the Atmanirbhar statement. So that is something which is actually urging a lot of people to go Indian, buy Indian, and shift their focus from buying other products to Indian products. So that is one thing which has actually pushed the economy to a larger extent than we can imagine. If we talk about our sector, so it was 70% dominated by products which was being imported from China, Vietnam, or Malaysia. But especially if you talk about B2B hospitality industry, but those hospitality industries are now shifting their focus from Chinese products to Indian products now, which is giving a boost to our sector. However, due to the COVID, of course, due to the lockdown in the last months, and even right now, people are still skeptical to visit the physical stores. But our business being completely online, so that has actually experienced a boost in the operation after the unlockdown started. But I believe the Atmanirbhar statement which PM Modi gave, that has helped a lot, not just in our industry but the entire industry as a whole. But yes, there is still a lot to be done, still a lot to understand about how to take this forward. What's happening now is that we cannot strategize for a month, or let's say sometimes even for a week. We have to strategize each day how to approach today, how to get by today, how to close the evening, and next morning when we get up, we have to think again like what's going to happen today. Because this situation is it's so changing, it's so dynamic, sometimes nationally, sometimes locally. So making a clear strategy, because this is a new situation, is very difficult. And the impact of this whole is ultimately on the economy, be it if we talk about the impacts from the health sector point of view or from the business sector point of view, ultimately it is affecting the economy. So there's a lot to be contributed, not only from the government side, but also from the businesses side also. So it has to be a cohesive approach from the government as well as from the businesses.
Okay. At this point, let me bring in Mr. Almeida. Jerry, you're a creative entrepreneur, you're in the L&D space, training space, and you write books, you do seminars, and what is the impact you have seen? And have you seen the economic stimulus making an impact to entrepreneurs around you, Jerry Almeida?
Uh, I don't know. I somehow feel that, we are so caught up in kind of glorifying and praising whatever the government does without realizing that they're doing more harm than really kind of doing any damage control.
And why do you say they're doing more harm?
Because
the government has a limited role. It's a healthcare crisis. The government needs to solve the healthcare crisis. The economic crisis has become an economic crisis because there is a debate between lives and livelihood. So why do you say that, Mr. Almeida?
I think we'll have to step back a little towards when the migrant labor exodus happened, because somehow we are all focused on the great Indian middle class without realizing that the great Indian middle class is a very small portion of the economy. And if you want the economy to flow and prosper and do well again, we need to focus on the most ignored and the most vulnerable. We saw it during the migrant labor exodus. When people don't have means to consume and means to buy their basic needs, how will the economy start flourishing again? I think that's a big thought to think about. The CMI report says 122 million jobs lost. In 122 million jobs, it's less than 10% which are the white collar jobs, which means almost 90% are the blue collar and the gray collar jobs. So we need to figure out how to kind of bring these people back into the ecosystem, because whether we like it or not, it's not the billionaires, it's not the millionaires, it's not the celebrities, it's not the politicians who are the pillars of the economy. The pillars of the economy is the migrant labor. Even if it comes to our basic essentials, roti, kapda, makan, right? It is not the real estate tycoons who deliver the homes. It is the migrant labor. Kapda is not the fashion designers and the creative designers who deliver the clothes. It is the migrant labor. Food, again, it is not the rich landlords and the rich farmers who deliver the food. It is the migrant labor. And we have ignored them. For an economy to flow, economy per se comes from oikonomios, which is a Greek word, which basically means house management, right? Or household management. So apply that to the entire country. This is a home, this is a house. And in the house, if there is a large portion of the family which is not doing well and who are not taken care of, then the economy cannot flourish, cannot do well. So
Jerry,
we have,
yeah, you're absolutely right. We have to look at the support sector, the bottom of the pyramid,
Right.
And that's a large population.
Absolutely.
It can mean social unrest.
Absolutely.
It can mean social tensions, which can then really
there are huge social implications to this, because for many years, whether it's the current government or the past government, we have been touting and promoting this word called demographic dividend for almost 2 decades now. And I've been saying for 2 decades that it's not a demographic dividend, it's a demographic curse, it's a tax. Because if we don't create jobs, if we don't create livelihood for the entire mass,
Yes.
there is anarchy which is going to happen, there is conflict which is going to happen,
But
crimes are going to rise. So there's
the government has provided them free rations, free food, made sure that the basics are provided for. Of course, the migrant labor, I don't think any of us expected, and we were all saddened by what we saw. The government tried to address it, though it was a little later than it should have.
See, one is there is a pandemic which is not in the control of government. I completely agree with that. Pandemic is not in the control of government. But how it was managed, at least at later stages, if not in the first few weeks, is in the circle of influence of the government. And while the rhetoric on television and in media is that we have provided, I know for a fact that at the grassroots level, at a ground level, the provision has not reached the people. I've been working with 1millionmeals.org, who have now provided food to over 5 million people. It's the social sector, it's the people who have been providing, right? So one is that migrant labor lost jobs. They were callously thrown out of their jobs, not just by industry, but even by households. So you had newspaper reports in New York Times, you had newspaper reports in Times of India and Indian Express, how people living in fancy condominiums of Gurgaon have done away with terminated the services of their car cleaner who was being paid 800 rupees a month. Now, how do you expect that guy to survive and contribute to the economy? Sure. At the same time, I think, just to kind of conclude, I think we also require robust policy and robust administration, so that we attract investment rather than thinking that, just because China is being marginalized today, we will get that investment. That's not true.
Mr. Almeida, point taken. We'll come back to you. Let's bring in the others for their opening comments as well. Dr. Ajay Kaul is with us as well. Dr. Kaul, your assessment, of course, of the situation currently, but also vis-a-vis the health sector. Now, this, of course, was a huge health crisis. Do you believe that given the situation right now of the health infrastructure in our country, this was a big wake-up call as well? Have we cashed in on it? Have we started to scale up infrastructure, or is there much more that still needs to be done, Dr. Kaul?
You'll have to unmute yourself, Dr.
You'll have to unmute yourself, Dr. Kaul.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Very clearly.
See, you know that healthcare has taken the main brunt of this pandemic. And I was really surprised when Modi ji gave the call that the hospitals have to work and make sure that everything is okay. We had meetings with health minister and other people. I am really surprised the way we have handled this. We have handled it really well. If we compared it with other developed economies, and hats off to those doctors, nurses, paramedical staff, they have done a tremendous job. Having said that, Indian healthcare is divided into two parts. One is government sector and other is private sector. Private sector was always good. I mean, you find lots of international patients coming to India. And what I was surprised is, if you go to America or any other place, the healthcare in India today in these private hospitals is comparable with best of hospitals in the world. During this pandemic also, the doctors, even in the government sector, proved. You go to RML, you go to other hospitals, they are really doing a great job in controlling this. What I would like government to do is now to realize, because healthcare sector workers have done a good job, to provide some more funds to build up the infrastructure. Not only the government hospitals need a lot of, are lacking in infrastructure, and that has to be geared up. The second thing was basic, to control this pandemic. You see, don't get swayed away by these numbers which today they tell you that everything is fine. We are like in Delhi, numbers are coming down. Then after 10 days, they say that numbers are now going up. There is a problem. This is not going to go. But this pandemic made us realize that there are lots of shortcomings in our healthcare industry, and we need to help government hospitals. And that's my take on this.
Okay. Dr. Batra?
Thank you so much, Uday. At this point, let me bring in Anshu Anand. Anshu, you're a business advisor. You work with entrepreneurs and medium-sized businesses. What is your sense of when the economy will be back? When will be business as usual? And when will the demand be back? Anshu Anand.
So I have been studying the aggregator websites of, trading and macroeconomics. So, like the news that we heard about negative growth rate of about 23%, which is alarming for all of us. And I think all of us have been seeing it in our day-to-day life and businesses for the past few quarters. But it's very good to see statistically, India is going to improve marginally, more than double in the next quarter. And 2021 onwards, the first 2 quarters statistics say that we are going to be on a positive growth rate of about 10, which is much better than a lot of other Southeast Asian countries as well. And why is this happening is because, again, there is another economic indicator called business confidence, which is where India is double than China and a lot of other Southeast Asian countries. The only one that comes around India's business confidence is Indonesia, which is fairly small. So I think we are on the right track. in terms of policies and in terms of the sentiments that have been created on a global scale. But the trick is the implementation. If the execution is done flawlessly, I think we will recover in the first few quarters of 2021.
Okay.
Fantastic, Anshu. I want to go to Subbu. Dr. Kusnur, you have multiple enterprises, you're focused on the water business, and you understand business and economy. Tell us, do you see beyond September, October, November, which are festive months, IPL is around the corner, do you really see the demand staying back after Diwali? Do you see the economy coming back soon?
So, thanks, Anurag. Very interesting question, actually. The pandemic has been something which has hit out of the blue, not just to India, but across the world. The entire focus of managing the pandemic and coming back on your heels is something which is, there is no sort of relevance to what exactly is happening in terms of demand and in terms of growth. Existence has become challenging right now. So the entire story of response to the pandemic, building resilience and resurging out of this is going to be very important.
Right.
And as you told earlier, one of the core businesses that we've been into for the last 10 years is in the business of water. And water today is at the core of sustainability. Today, if you have to have clean environment, clean hygiene, if you need to wash hands, if you need to see, the entire pandemic has created a transformational change in the way not just a country thinks, corporate thinks, administration thinks, or a government thinks. In fact, it has impacted the entire behavioral activity of an individual.
Sanitation and hygiene has seen a huge.
So we run a program called as Swachh, which is not just toilet. It is sanitation and water for community health and hygiene. It's an integrated play that we are trying to put this across. But what I was trying to say is that we've been seeing, I live in Mumbai. Mumbai is the worst hit. 40% of the deaths in the country, COVID deaths in the country come out of Maharashtra. But we've been working in around 17 villages in Maharashtra right now as we speak. We've seen the resilience and the basic inner strength of a local citizen to grapple up to this pandemic and to come out of this. That inner strength is there. How to leverage that inner strength and try and create a platform which would be more focused towards managing the pandemic than running away from the pandemic. It's very important for everybody across strata. Economy has hit everyone. It is relative. It has hit a small chaiwala to a billionaire, to a listed company, to a private equity fund, and everybody. And nobody really knows what exactly is in store. Everybody wants to just break out of this problem, break out of the cudgels of this pandemic, and then come out of the whole thing. So we have created a platform, and which I shared with Anurag earlier this day, is what you have done in response. Response is very important and very, the first people who actually got up, the doctors, as Dr. Kaul rightly said, the paramedics, the public health professionals, the police, the administration, all of them are first responders. But what is important is to follow the advisory. As she rightly said, that execution is going to be very important. Government is doing a brilliant job. At the end of the day, government also comprises of human beings.
There is a different point of view on that. Dr. Kusnur, let me come back to you. Rana Basu Thakur, you're an actor, you're a creative entrepreneur, you have your own studio, you were a CMO and had a corporate life before you jumped into all this. What's the sense you make of it? Do you see the economic stimulus benefiting people? Do you see the business and economy coming back fast? What is your view on this?
Good evening, Anurag, and a very good evening to my other panelists here. It's nice to be here. See, Anurag, as the previous speakers, Raghu, Jerry, and Dr. Subramanian pointed out, I think what is key, rather the core focus that we need to have here is the execution part of it. While there is a lot of rhetoric that is being spewed daily on our digital media and electronic channels, the Indian entrepreneur is known to be resilient. Kuch bhi ho jaye, they'll bounce back. That's how we've seen it for many decades. But given these trying times, I think there is a sense of negativity. There is a bit of dismal despair in the air. But given the fact that the economy is slowly crawling back, and today in particular with this kind of a total GDP collapse at 23.9%, is fairly discouraging. But I would say, let's look at the next quarter. It does look a little hopeful. It might be a little bit of a trickle. In my particular industry, in the film industry, things are just about limping back to normal. There are a whole lot of issues that are thwarting the developments there. And as far as my forays into marketing and PR and media is concerned, most clients are being very wary, at least in this part of the country, in East India.
They've gone in for a pause.
See, it's essentially being a stop, pause, play, go back to pause, rewind, stop, wait, that kind of a mode. But in this part of the country, things have usually been a little sluggish. But now I think it's the collective wisdom that needs to take a more active part. And in the film industry in particular, I think steps are being taken. But I think prosperity will probably only depend on movie halls being opened, which doesn't
look like they'll open.
Which looks very unlikely till at least a couple of months, minimal. But we are planning on my marketing and PR foray. We are planning Eastern India's first, biggest ever phygital expo or conclave to celebrate. Durga Puja is just around the corner. That's a big thing for us.
Yeah, so I agree with Durga Puja around the corner, Diwali around the corner, IPL around the corner.
Correct.
The economy is bound to get marginally better.
See, the celebrations.
Will it sustain post that? I think that's the question you would look for answers.
I think to answer that, Anurag, very succinctly, the Durga Puja and Diwali period has always been a very large stimulus to the economy, of the local economy, as well as contributing to the national economy. Now, Ganesh Chaturthi is already gone. There was hardly any specter of celebration per se, other than in pockets, in isolation. But I would say Diwali, more than Durga Puja, is something which a large part of the country is really looking forward to. And that is expected to be the cornerstone. And to sustain that, we will need more stimulus rather than empty rhetoric, rather than, ducks and peacocks, if I may put it that way. We probably need more birds of practical and pragmatic flight than rhetorical or symbolical.
Okay, Rana. At this point, let me bring in...
Well, actually, Dr. Batra, before you go ahead, I have a quick follow-up question for you as well, considering this is the first time we're speaking after the GDP numbers are out, and we've been having these discussions for the last few weeks. How do you really react to them? Is the worst over? This was obviously a shock which was expected. And do you believe that there may be another shock in the Q2 numbers as well, or is the worst over and now it's only the only way is up from here?
See, it's difficult to say if the worst is over. Let me take it. See, there are two big variables. One is when will COVID go away? And second, if it doesn't COVID go away in soon, then when is the vaccine coming? As long as you have some kind of handle on those two, you cannot say the worst is over. I wouldn't say the worst is over. At least over the next 30 days, what we see, I wouldn't say. I wouldn't be surprised if India becomes number one, sadly, in the number of cases. And even at the percentages of fatalities that we have, I mean, it's a very serious number of loss of life. So I think, and there is still a very big fear in people to go out to public places. Hotels have opened, they hardly have any business. Malls have opened, they hardly have any business. So really, I think, I'm not sure if the worst is over. However, temporarily, some demand will come back. As I said, the $1 trillion question is whether the demand will stay beyond 14 November, which is Diwali. So it's a tough ask. The only thing is we have to solve the healthcare crisis. The day we are able to address the healthcare crisis in some way, if the confidence building happens, if there is an announcement of a vaccine, maybe that can spur up things. Because, my friend is talking about Calcutta celebrating Durga Puja. In Durga Puja, people come out and in large numbers shop, go out, they dine out. That's not going to happen this Durga Puja. That's a given. Similarly, in Diwali, the shopping will be subdued, but it will possibly be much more than what has happened. But it all depends on what happens in the next 30 days in terms of the COVID issue. If that starts to subsidize, while we are resilient, we are also optimistic people. If we see a small ray of light, we hold on to that. So I think right now the worst is not over. If you to give you a very direct answer, I don't think the next 30 days are going to be easy.
Let me take that to Dr. Kaul. Dr. Kaul, what's the way out of this healthcare crisis? When any word of when you're expecting, or people in the healthcare segment are expecting that vaccine to be out by, and when you will give the health care green signal for the Indian economy then to rebound?
Let me tell you, nobody knows the answer of this question. Still don't have any vaccine. There is a Russian vaccine. You doubt? I mean, I really doubt what is the outcome. Chinese vaccine coming up. So till we have something in hand, till we have a vaccine with us, it's not going to go away. So most important thing is to take precautions till then. I think it is going to be the earliest we can get a vaccine is somewhere in 2021, March, April, May. And then the volume, how can we get so many vials to immunize almost the whole world? Because this virus is so virulent that even if you leave a small area which has not been covered properly, it can spread back again. So, if you ask me, when is this economy going to open, or when are we going to back to normal economy? I think I won't be able to answer your question. It's going to be at least a year before we can go back to normal. At least 1 year.
Okay. And, Dr. Kaul, dare may I ask you, what is the kind of mindset that you deal with within doctors? I mean, people like us are very afraid to go out, meet people. At some stage, we've thought that things were getting back to normal 20 days back. So we got a little more relaxed. What is your assessment and caution to people? I mean, what's your advice?
See, first of all, so far as the doctors are concerned, let me put it this way. We are also worried about the way the virus is spreading. I mean, even whenever we go to the hospital, it is, I get my test done almost every month to make sure that I'm not first infecting my family and second infecting my patients. So that is very important. And most of us are surrounded by almost all. But let me again say that hospitals that way are very safe, at least the hospital in which I work. We make sure that we take proper precautions. We have started operating routine cases, which we had stopped a couple of months back. Now from July onwards, and today, if you see, we used to operate around 80 cases a day. We have touched around 64, 65 operations. So gradually things are opening up and things are becoming. But what my worry was, that's what I was telling. When you go out on the street with this, the way we are easing up things, you find lots of people moving on the streets without taking necessary precautions. And that is going to be dangerous. You're going to get a second wave, and that's going to be a disaster. You have seen it in Paris, France, you've seen it in other countries. And
look at UP.
UP, absolutely.
Look at Delhi, look at UP.
Absolutely. So it's not only the government or the doctors who can cure this problem or treat this problem. It is the common man on the street who has to be where people have to really take precautions.
And one more question I want to ask. Yeah. Suppose your hospital was in February doing 100 rupees of business. How much has the business of even a very prominent hospital like BLK shrunk? Because patients of other diseases are not showing up because they don't want to show up in a hospital. So
I'll tell you one thing. Hospital business is something, if it is not regular operation, you have COVID patients. So you have something or the else coming up to the hospital. The thing was that we were told to stop operations to be prepared for large number of patients who can require ventilators, can require intensive care beds. So we had stopped routine operations. Gradually, we were told, okay, you can scale up a little bit, and we have reached almost 75%. Yes, the international patients who are coming to us are still, there is a problem in that. But so far as the domestic is concerned, we ourselves don't accept patients who don't require emergency operations. But otherwise, most of the cases where routine surgeries are concerned, we have started opening up a little bit. So if we were doing a business of, say, 100 rupees, I think my administrator will be happy we have touched 75.
Yeah. That's not bad in a scenario because the total loss to the healthcare industry in the last 6 months has been more than $2.5 billion. And if you add the neighborhood clinic, is possibly $3 billion. So that's because of the loss of business in the first 4 or 5 months. So coming back to you, Jerry. Jerry, what do you think the government should do now to spur the economy? First, tackle the healthcare crisis, and second, kind of do a second set of measures for the economy. Jerry, you'll have to unmute yourself.
As far as the healthcare crisis is concerned, there is no playbook, right? Because this is a new phenomenon which has hit the world over. So I don't blame the government over there. At the same time, I think the government, if it really executes some parts of the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative well, especially in the agricultural sector, right? Because that is a sector which has been ignored for long, and the new policy to kind of revive the economy is talking about radical reforms in the Essential Commodities Act, right, which are talking about amendments in the Essential Commodities Act, which could really benefit the agrarian economy and the agricultural sector. I think the entrepreneurship and innovation has happened in all other sectors, but in the agri sector. India has over 200 million hectares of irrigated land. So if we do something in this space well, and kind of create a market where farmers can actually sell their produce without any red tape or without any corruption, I think we can not just be Atmanirbhar for India, but we can actually provide food to the world. So I think there is more innovation required in the agricultural sector, more agricultural entrepreneurs required, more agricultural livelihood has to be created. We have huge coastlines, Ocean farming is another space that we can really tap and look at creating innovation in agriculture. So I think the time has come about how can we free the agri market like we had delicensed the industry in 1991. So I think that's the way forward, and I think the government has some strategy in that direction. They are taking some right steps in that direction, but I think the key is in the execution, because I think where we fail is the execution, because we saw it with the demonetization. Right, the entire parallel economy was killed. So I think there are a whole lot of factors which have led to this domino effect now. So we really need to tread carefully. I think I'll conclude.
Anshu Anand, what is your prognosis of the economy? You said we have to look at the, index of ease of doing business, the confidence of doing business. All that is fine. The stock market is at even when it tanked temporarily. But overall, the stock market is very exuberant. There is so much disconnect between the real street and the Dalal street that you don't know what to do. So, Anshu, what is your advice to the government in terms of tackling the healthcare crisis, and second, doing economic measures while it tackles the healthcare crisis? Anshu Anand?
In terms of tackling the healthcare crisis, I think, which I have been discussing with several other hospitals and doctors around the world, what we require is actually transformation of the whole sector towards application of deep technology. For example, if we had at-home diagnosis, then
healthcare at home, diagnosis at home.
Yes,
so the whole burden on hospitals can be reduced, and it gives birth to a new sector. Healthcare at home has become big.
Yeah.
So the 80% of footfall that the hospitals were getting due to the other departments have reduced, and which is what has caused this humongous amount of loss that the sector is facing, and plus the triple burden of the health workers have to work double time, and and just tackling one particular health crisis. So I think, in terms of the healthcare sector needs to, I think it's a very well organized private sector all across the world. And we just need to implement the upcoming technologies to make it better and make it robust for, God forbid, but there may be next pandemic that may be around the corner and we don't know. or a climate change crisis that may happen. So I think healthcare sector just needs to, rather than just waiting for the government to do something, they need to start innovating on their own. Now, in terms of the economic measures, I was very happy to hear what the finance minister announced during the press conference over the span of 3 days. There were some very interesting aspects like creating, agricultural silos of different states. For example, makhana is famous from Bihar, or a particular millet is famous from another state, and they want to create a more structured approach to promote those particular crops. And this similarly with the ocean and ocean farming. And that now this sector is key for our country, which is huge. And there were certain parts of the country like the Northeast or Kashmir, which were not able to utilize the agricultural produce that we had. And that has also been taken care of by the infrastructure that has already been created.
But Anshu, all this will impact in the little medium term and long term. Right now, it's about survival. Anshu, there is also a worry, and let me take that to Dr. Subramaniam Kusnur also, is that a lot of startups revenues have dried up, their funding hasn't happened. So in the next 2 to 3 months, a lot of startups may actually fold. So what's your view on that? Do you see it as a reality, or do you think we are panicking and exaggerating? Anshu first, and then Dr. Kusnur.
Okay, sure. So I think in terms of startups, companies at early stage or at growth stage in different sectors, unfortunately had jumped in, I think, way too soon, joining the bandwagon. And I think times like these is the test of who actually is serious about business. So, and being in the business advisory and engaging with so many entrepreneurs with different kinds of experiences, I think a lot of people may not be determined enough to actually just persevere and stick around. In terms of the credit, the government incentives, there is a lot of credit line that has already been given. There is an automated credit line that was given to the manufacturing sector. There has been announcement of including other sectors like trading and services. But I think the implementation from the policy point of view is missing, which is why a lot of MSMEs are also not able to benefit, even if they deserve it. And plus, I think the credit score system also needs to be improved. That can happen through government intervention and through private entities taking that initiative.
Thank you, Anshu. Dr. Kusnur, your view on startups not being able to sustain over the next 2 months.
So startups, basically, whoever has been funded just in the pre-COVID era, or maybe the last quarter of the last year, will find it very difficult to maintain their activities across, except for the startups who have been in the healthcare space. So while we talk about economy, while there has been downside in various other sectors, the healthcare, the related sectors, and the sectors which are focusing towards building resilience in the pandemic era have really got a lot of interesting activities. A lot of innovations have happened in this, especially in the primary healthcare space, especially in the artificial intelligence space. So these are the kind of startups which will actually survive out. And as Anshu rightly said, manufacturing is the one which has taken a big hit because they do not completely rely on private equity. They require lines of funding. They require working capital. So anybody who is there in the vicious circle of working capital, even though the government is giving a lot of leeway in terms of debt restructuring, things like that, but finally that interest has to be paid, the money has to be paid. So typically MSMEs will have a challenge. Startups who have investors who have a long-term sort of view will survive because they are also grappling with the same challenge. But a whole bunch of startups which are dependent on working capital will definitely look at having a great challenge. Coming back to what the government is doing, there are a lot of interesting things which has been done for the people who have migrated back to their hometowns. So the Prime Minister's Employment Guarantee Program, which used to give 20 lakhs till now, is now extended to 50 lakhs at 4% interest per capita. So there are a lot of these kind of initiatives which are coming up and which are the ray of hope for getting demand and economy back.
Mr. Saraf, what more needs to be done to create a positive sentiment for entrepreneurs in the context of the current climate?
You'll have to again unmute yourself, Mr. Saraf.
I think I totally agree with what Dr. Batra said. It's about the trust factor. It's about making people believe that it's okay to be usual again. So government is extending credit lines, fine. Government is trying to do what they are doing for the health sector. But it has to be a collective effort, including government, you, me, businesses, and everybody. So as long as there is no demand generation, no credit line can help that. So it's actually about building the trust factor, making citizens know that it's okay, we can be back now, and if there will be some issues, we are there for you. I think that's what Mr. Modi is trying to do as well by appearing every now and then for smaller to bigger issues. What he's trying to bring in is that wave of confidence into the citizens, like we are there for you, don't be afraid to be back. So I think it's totally about building that confidence, which can bring the economy back. And as far as thinking about will it sustain post Diwali or post the other festivals, I think yes, it's going to. Since we are all talking about this, that it's going to act as a stimuli for the economy. Since we are all on the same page, so must be everybody else. And as long as everybody is thinking about the same thing, yes, I think it's going to sustain post this as well. So as far as what government is doing, I think they are doing a good job in terms of educating citizens as to what to do and what not to do.
Mr. Rana Basu Thakur, we just done a cover story in Business World on cinemas, on films, how that industry is impacted and badly impacted. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel. At least they can't see the end of the tunnel. And hence they can't see light outside the end of the tunnel. Right. Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel for the Indian economy? What are your predictions going forward?
See, Anurag, I'm no economist, but from a very Aam Janta point of view, and you mentioned, the allegory of the light at the end of the tunnel. The proverbial tunnel itself has kind of vanished from our periscope to a large extent. I mean, what exactly is the tunnel and what exactly is the so-called smooth highway, as far as entrepreneurs are concerned, is a fairly debatable issue today. But what I do envisage is the resilience factor at the core of it all needs to come back, the belief and the conviction of the Indian economy, and that too to a large extent, the migrant laborers, the peasants, the farmers. I mean, it's all nice and good to completely brush under the carpet farmer suicide issues and all of that. And of course, we are worried about GDP and taxation issues. But to my mind, it's the resilience and the belief that we can, as a collective, and focus on the core issues, then choose to digress on other diversionary issues, is what needs to be debated and focused more on.
Okay, let me ask you a direct question. Let me ask this to Rana, and then we'll ask this to everyone. Rana, the Indian economy, let me ask you a very specific question. I want a specific answer. I don't want a roundabout answer to this straight question. Is in 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months, when do you see the economy coming back? Will it be tepid? Will it be worse than now? I mean, when do you really see the economy roaring like it was roaring in, let's say, 2018? I won't even take 2019. I think 2019 and early part of 2020 were already very weak. And then COVID happened, it kind of pushed it off the cliff.
See, I mean,
Indian economy in 6, 12 and 18 months.
See, I would say, Anurag, you're very right. And so have the rest of the panelists thrown light on this subject. 2019 was fairly bleak. 18 was, yes, it was reasonably robust. And the last quarter of 2019, of course, sprang a lot of surprises, and COVID kind of nailed the last nail. But to my guesstimate, I would say it won't get worse. That doesn't seem likely. But I would say yet another quarter, and by the second or late first quarter of 2021 is when things should be back to a much better state of affairs. I wouldn't say it would roar. That would be a metaphor to use very optimistically. But I would say things would be better by then, the global economy also.
We're running out of time, so let's take that quickly to the others. Mr. Almeida, when do you really see this recovery happening? Any sort of timeline that you've thought of or that you're predicting?
Jerry, when do you see the economy coming back? 6 months, 12 months, 18 months?
Sometime in mid 2022. I think what we need to be concerned about.
That's almost You're
Yes,
talking about
yes.
22 months ahead.
Because the aftermath of this pandemic is going to be the worst time, because it's going to be a bloodbath. It's not an economic slowdown. I don't know why everyone is calling it an economic slowdown. It's a breakdown. So we need to kind of really work hard. And like you said, it's not just government. It's all the sectors who have to work together, including the citizens who have to revive the economy. So I think...
Point taken. Let's go to Anshu Anand at that point. Anshu Anand, same question to you.
So again, I think considering we are in negative 23, the second quarter is going to be positive growth rate of about 15, and even the first quarter of 2021 is going to be again positive growth rate. So we will see the recovery phase start by the next financial year, and 2022 to 2030 is the time when all the international investors that we're working with want to be in India. So I think we are at a good place.
Okay. Dr. Kaul, you'll have to unmute yourself, Dr. Kaul. Your final word on when do you see the economy back on track again?
See, so far as the health sector is concerned, it's no different from the rest of the economy. If people don't have money, they can't come to the hospital for treatment. But it is one of the essential services. So hospitals have recovered and they will do a little better than other sectors. But yes, it is always linked with others. If you ask me when it is going to, I'm very optimistic. I think by, say, July next year, we should be back to normal.
All right. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it at that. We're completely out of time. I'm being told there's some breaking updates coming in. I need to address that. Thanks very much to our panelists for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.